to be here. I've already learned a few things, so I think I'm ahead of the curve. But what I would like to do with you during the next hour is to invite you into my Futures helicopter. And I want to take you on a tour of what I see on the landscape of the future that I picked out specifically because of who you are, thinking that some of the points that we're going to land on have some interesting ideas for you to consider as you move into the future. I'm not a very good helicopter pilot driver, so if you get fearful or anything, don't worry too much. I haven't crashed yet. The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. And it's a kind of a fun, but it's also a very profound statement that I think everybody should think about in today's interesting environment. We often try to think about the future extrapolating from our own personal past. And that used to work sort of, I think, in primitive times. But it certainly doesn't work today. And so what I hope I can share with you today are some points of view, some information, some forecasts about the future that will help you develop your peripheral vision. Now, you are all experts in divergent thinking, and so you really should be able to quickly become futurists, because being a futurist, the foundation is being able to think divergently, when as human beings, what we really want to do is sort of stay addicted to the kinds of thoughts and feelings and ideas that we have. That's sort of our natural state. That's how we kind of make it from moment to moment, is being addicted to what we do. But if you're leading an organization, if you're trying to facilitate change, if you're really trying to get people to unleash their creativity, to say yes to big possibilities, you really have to look way beyond your immediate vision. And in this hypermedia world that we live in, we find ourselves getting narrower and narrower and narrower because we don't really know how to manage distractions very well. So, what you want to look for is who's doing your future now. Somebody, somewhere on this planet, in some country or some village you've never even thought about, has come up with an incredible strategy, facilitation practice that can unleash creativity in ways you never thought about. For business, if you're in business and having worked with a lot of big global companies, that's a key question that they're asking themselves every day. Who's doing my future now? Particularly since we're in a global economy and they have competitors that they never even ever thought they would have. Many of them deep in emerging markets, many of them with the only technology that they've only had for 3 years, a cell phone, and they are innovating products and services that compete with theirs. So this is the landscape that they face. So what you want to ask yourself is, how can I look around and find 5 people that are doing my future now? Let me give you my big frame sort of for how I think and actually where we are, a way to look at where we are. We're in a big historical cycle of disruptive innovation. We're always in a big historic cycle of disruptive innovation. It just depends on where we are in that cycle. I went back and mapped these cycles back to the 5th century BC to try to get a sense of where are we? What is this time that we're in? This one sort of began in about 1950 as we left the great industrial plains. We're here now. And what's interesting about this is that we're just at the edge of getting out of the Badlands. Now the Badlands is the place that you're in these big cycles where the old has kind of gone away, but we haven't quite invented all the new. And we're actually trying to get out of the Badlands. We're trying to get across to the far foothills of the future, but we're really having a lot of trouble getting traction. So what happens in these cycles, if you just take a quick tour of this map, is that they start with a very kind of disruptive innovation. Most of the disruptive innovations that we've been most impacted with so far have been in information and communication technologies. They spawn other innovations, and pretty soon what you get are surges of innovations, and the economy goes through a structural shift. Now that happened at the end of the 90s. And what that means is that what drives the economy to perform, to grow, shifts. And in this instance, what happened in the structural shift is what drove the economy used to be labor, used to be workers. You couldn't scale a business. You couldn't create wealth unless you hired more and more and more workers. That was the industrial age. What drives the economy now with globalization are trade, exports, business investment, the flow of people, ideas, and technology around the world. It has less and less to do with labor, which is a big challenge for us today, and that's still playing out. What happens next after the economy goes through a structural shift, we continue to get surges of innovation, new technologies, new science. If you just think about it, the cycle we're most like today is the Middle Ages, which ended in a Renaissance, which saw about 1,000 years ago, which is quite interesting. If you think about what happened in the Middle Ages, the disruptive technology then was the printing press and the penny press. In the Middle Ages, all they had were 7 books, and all of knowledge was locked up in the church. And when people could begin to print words on paper with a press, and then with a penny press that allowed ordinary people to create information in their homes and share it with each other, that completely transformed the economy. It completely stripped the Catholic Church of most of its power, and they went on to create, after the plague and a few other things that weren't too nice, really a renaissance. So this is the first time in the history of these cycles in 1,000 years that we've had a cycle like this where we have so much new science, so much new knowledge. So what we've got before us as we move through this tour of the future, we have the opportunity to have a renaissance. We could also end up with a Blade Runner, which I don't think we want to do. But that's our choice. What happens after the economy goes through a structural shift is that all the social systems fail. Healthcare's failed. Education's failed. The criminal justice system has failed. The government doesn't function at any level. Government contract with its citizens is over, and the social bargain for work is just an illusion. It will slip away extremely fast in the next 10 years. Religion is under tremendous ferment, and the very basic unit of society, the household, resembles not what it was 20 years ago. And if we flash forward to 2025, another 15, 18 years, the household will not resemble what it is today. We may not even call it a household when we go out another 18 years. So really what happens at the end of this, so we're in a huge period of disruption. We've had disruption to this point. We are about to have the most disruption that we have had in this cycle over the next 10 to 15 years. And by the time we get to around 2025, if we can reinvent the social institutions, because that's the game. It's very easy to forecast the economy. I actually have about a 98% reliability over 25 years, because it's not hard to do. Forecasting the economy has become entertainment, like so many things are. But it's not hard to do. But what's hard to do, and it's not hard to reinvent business institutions, because if your business doesn't make money, it simply, in not too long a time, is going to go out of business, and somebody else will come up quickly to take your place. That's not true about the social institutions. So the real challenge that we have